Hi folks, Pete here from Ashton's Cars. Today taking you around the Landrover Discovery 3. This is a HSE model. It's a late 2008, so 58 plate if you're in the UK. It's the 2.7 litre diesel. It's a turbo diesel engine. And same engine that you get in the early Jaguar XFs and the late Jaguar S-Type. So quite a familiar engine to a lot of people, this is. So 2.7 litre, obviously it's four-wheel drive because it's a Land Rover and it's an automatic gearbox on this model. This is the HSE model, which is one of the higher spec models in the range. So it's got quite a lot of extras on it, including twin sunroofs, 7 seats, and it's got even rear heated seats as well as front. So it's got quite a decent spec. Sat nav in this one as well, and it's got the Bluetooth phone kit. So back in 2008, which is 14 years ago, that was a very high spec car in fairness, and quite an expensive car when it was new. It's got a few nice little extras on it, including the side running bars that you can see now, and it's got upgraded rear lights that mimic the Discovery 4 style rear tail light. So it does look remarkably modern still, I think, for the age of the car. The Discovery 4s came out, but they were not a lot different from this externally. So it's quite a familiar shape. Still looks relatively modern and chunky. In my mind, these Discos were a great tool. They had the first ones that came with the terrain response system from Land Rover, so you can select the car's automatic programmer, its four-wheel drive system from a computer inside. And I think it does benefit from the sort of metallic grey coachwork, this car. It does look the part in this colour. It's a really nice colour for this model. It's got the lighter of the interiors, which I think looks the nicer. I do, happen to think that it's a much more pleasant place to be with a light interior than it is with the black. It has got dark floor mats as well to keep the car beds nice and clean. And yeah, overall, a great car with 7 seats, plenty of space in it. Ideal if you're towing, because it's got a huge towing capacity. Ideal if you've got a large family, because it's got 7 seats. Or if you just like comfort. I mean, these are pretty much on par with a Range Rover in terms of the sort of comfort level they've got. They've got the adjustable air suspension. They're a great tool all round. Just have a quick look inside this one. So, really nice interior. Love the wood finish on it, and I do like the lighter colour for the leather. I'm just going to jump inside a sec. I have got the sat-nav system on this car. I've got it all set up there, and I've got my phone plumbed in through it as well at the moment. When I come down here, there's a few other levers that you don't see in many cars. Obviously, the automatic gearbox should be quite familiar, as well as the electric handbrake. You get that in a lot of cars these days. But this one's also got a descent control. This terrain response system, which lets you select different driver modes for sand, snow, mud ruts, that sort of thing. And it's got adjustable ride height, which is on this one here. It's on this middle setting at the minute, but I can raise it up a couple of inches from this if I want to, for some serious off-roading, or I can lower it to what they call access height for getting in and out. So, really nice layout on the car. Air suspension's all been tested, it's all working. Cruise control's all working as well, which is all important on one of these. It's got a decent stereo system. It's got a stack of speakers in it. It's, I think, the Harman Kardon. Yeah, there we are, Harman Kardon Logic 7 stereo system. Let's just fire her up a second. So there we go. And I've got 163,000 miles on the clock. I hope you can see that. No lights on the dashboard, that's always good. Let's give it a quick rev. Sounds as it should, drives as it should, as you would imagine. A very nice car in fairness with one of these. They are very, very comfortable indeed, and they've got a great deal of spec on them. There is a little stone chip on the windscreen by there, which we're going to have to get sorted. We'll probably end up putting a new screen on it for that. But apart from that, the car's in very good condition for its age and mileage. I can lower the suspension with this switch here. I'll just do that quickly while you're watching it. If I just perhaps have it there so you can see compared to the van, you should see we are dropping down slightly. It's very difficult to show you on a video though, but I'll do it when I get out. I'll show you. You hopefully will notice on the outside that the car is at a lower ride height when I get out. But it's a great place to be. It's got all the kit that you could imagine with the screen here and the and the Bluetooth phone. It was very high spec for the time this car was built. And even driving it now today, it feels very modern and it feels very solid on the road. 163,000 miles is, well, really average mileage now for a car this age because it's almost 14 years old. I'll just knock it off a second and jump into the back to show you the back. So here we have a nice big bench on the rear, 3 seats here with ISOFIX, plenty of space in the car. Controls here for obviously your electric window, but then for separate ones for stereo, you can actually select through different modes on the stereo system there. It's got a stack of speakers in it, and as well as rear ventilation, it's got heated seats for the 2 outer seats in the back, which is great. Just very quick fold down of that, and you can see we've got 2 more seats at the rear. They've actually got a reasonable amount of space in them, these as well. Compared to something like a Volvo XC90, the Land Rover has actually got a bit more room in the back of it, so a bit more comfortable. You can put fully grown adults in the very back of this car, which is a nice thing to have as an option if you have got friends who want to come out with you for rides in this car, or perhaps older teenage kids that are now taller than you. Let me just close that up, take you around to the rear, which is another standout feature of the Disco, is its split tailgate design. So that comes up, little switch by here pulls that one down. It hasn't been valeted yet, the car, but it is quite clean, as you can see. We took it in today from its previous owner, and yeah, plenty of space there. But with the seats folded down, it's as big as a small van in the back of this. It's huge, in fact. I mean, it is a very big car. The Disco is, I think, about 4.8 meters long, so it's a fairly big car. If you're worried about sort of space outside your house, it's probably not the ideal vehicle for you. But what it has got, I think it's a 3.5 ton towing capacity, and it has got parking sensors on it. Now, can you see now that it's actually lower than it was earlier? That's because I've put the suspension on access height. One thing that you need to look for on one of these cars is that that works, because it's very expensive if it goes wrong. So it's all fully working on this particular one. I've tried all 3 modes, with the off-road mode, the standard driving mode, which is the one you use 90% of the time, and this access height, which allows you to get in and out easier. Those sensors that I talked about are front and rear on this particular car, so getting it into a tight parking space is not as difficult as you thought it might be. The car is, though, in its standard height, around about 1.9 meters high. So again, if you're worried about sort of accessing a very low sort of car park, you have to be careful in a Disco, especially if you've got it on its top setting. But overall, I find these a great car to drive, good fun, and with 7 seats, they are more practical really than the Range Rover, and nearly as luxurious. Once you get into HSE spec like this, it's got almost as much gear and kit in it as the equivalent Range Rover. So you get all the kit and an extra 2 seats to boot. And fuel consumption on these, from when I've driven them in the past, have been around about 30 to the gallon on average. That's real world figures. You might get 35 on a longer run. You're not going to get any much more than that. It's a big old car, and it's a fairly hefty car. It's over 2 ton in weight. But still, one of my favourite 4x4s. I've loved Land Rover products, and while they do have their critiques, I personally have owned several and found them to be very reliable vehicles. I've got a stack of service history for this particular one, and as much as the mileage on it is higher than than many, it's really only average for the age of the car. Now, before we go any further, let me just show you a couple of negative points on this particular one if you were looking to buy it. When I say negatives, it's just me being very fussy, but there is a little mark by there on it and another one down by here. Overall, as you can see, the paint's in excellent condition. There's another mark by here, and I noticed some very light superficial marks on the tailgate. Again, stand back from it, you can't see that, but when I'm going close up, you can. So it is something I would want to point out to any potential buyer of this particular car. What I would say, though, in its defence is, when you're thinking about buying a 14-year-old 4x4, you're going to be a little bit naive if you think there's not going to be the odd little mark on it. It's a big car, it does tend to get caught, and if it has been owned by a family, it'll be parked in tiny little parking bays in supermarkets where people will open their door on it occasionally. Those are really the only standout marks on the whole car, and for a car this age, that's very little. It's in excellent condition overall. Xenon lights as well. Basically, if you can think of it, it's probably got it on it. In fairness to this car, from 2008 it was one of the higher spec motors that you could buy. And it's the same chassis on these as there are on the Range Rover Sport. It drives exactly the same as a Range Rover Sport, in fact, but you've got an extra 2 seats and it's a little bit more practical. And I think it's actually aged a bit nicer. It just seems to look a little bit more, a bit less showy and just a bit more classy than the Range Rover Sport. But you can let me know your thoughts on that by commenting below. Or feel free to subscribe to our channel. We'll have more information on cars like this and others that we've got in stock. My number, if you're interested in this particular car, is 07932 873 646. I would encourage you to give me a ring because Land Rover Discoveries like this, they don't tend to stay in stock for long. So I would always get on it as quick as you can and reserve this car if it's of interest to you. I'm happy to take your old car in part exchange, and I'm happy to deliver this car anywhere in the UK. So my number one more time is 07932 873 646. Thanks ever so much for watching the video. Hope it's of interest to you and I hope it helped. Goodbye.